Coming up, a couple of iPad keyboard cases, a Lenovo with its own keyboard. We also have a camera with a 42x zoom, and yes, that's an electric motorcycle. It's time to watch before you buy.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Before You Buy is brought to you by Cashfly at CACHEFLY.com.
Before You Buy is brought to you by Gazelle, the fast and simple way to sell your used gadgets. Find out what your used Samsung Galaxy, iPhone, or other smartphone is worth at Gazelle.com. And by Bespoke Post, a product subscription club for men. Bespoke's monthly box of awesome keeps you up on the latest in food, drink, fashion, and more. For 20% off on your first box, visit bespokepost.com/twit. Hey, welcome to Before You Buy, the product review show on Twit where we get all the most interesting products and then let our Twit staff review them. And sometimes there's a fight. But I always win. Today, I'm not going to do anything because we have so many great things. Let's start off with our producer, Shannon Morse, who also is the host of Hack 5 and ThreatWire at youtube.com/techfeed.
Yes.
Hi, Shannon.
Hi.
We are all big fans. I don't want to speak for you, but I think it's safe to say of the Logitech ultra-thin iPad case that has a keyboard.
I was.
You was?
Was.
Now, Logitech has a follow-up, and this is called their Folio.
Yeah, this is the Logitech Keyboard Folio, not to be confused with the Logitech Fabric Skin, even though both of them have this nice fabric
it's like
on the back of
denim.
them.
It's like blue jeans.
Yeah, it's weird. So it's 99 bucks, about $100. The Fabric Skin one is about 130. We'll have that one on next week. So this one is, the first thing I noticed when I took it out was how thick it is.
It's bulky.
It is very bulky. And it also comes in 4 beautiful colors.
It looks like
so nice
almost a school book, like you know.
It does.
Yeah.
When I took it out, I was
Feels like
reminded of a textbook.
Yeah.
So it's a regular Bluetooth keyboard that you can use with your iPad. It only has one level that you can set it at, and it sticks with a magnet, so it's easily comes off.
So that's similar to the ultra-thin keyboard case.
Yeah,
it's just got a full case around it,
It
which
sticks
is nice.
pretty well, so I can jiggle it around, and it doesn't come off until I really hit it really hard. So it's very sturdy, and you can tell from the build and the design of the keyboard that it's pretty sturdy. It's very solid.
Yeah.
They did a great job with it. It's mostly plastic, other than the outside of it, and they also have this rubber designing around it.
Logitech makes another washable keyboard that looks and feels very similar to that.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
So this one, it has this nice rubber on it, so it sticks in there very well. So one thing I could do with this, and this might look a little scary, but I can do that. And I can hang it.
It didn't look like anything because we didn't see it. Now we can see it. Ah, look at that. Well, it's on there good.
Yeah. So it'll last about 3 months. I've only had it for about a week.
The battery
No
will, not the case.
connection.
The case lasts forever.
Yes, the case lasts
The battery and the keyboard, got it. I knew what you were talking about.
Although one thing I did notice is some of these kind of cases have an automatic off, so that when you close it like this and you have it laying on top of your keyboard, it's not going to press any buttons underneath you. So if you're, pressing on here, you're not going to hit anything on here. Unfortunately, this Logitech one does not have that feature. So you might end up accidentally pressing something if you press too hard down on your Logitech or on your iPad. I didn't have this issue too much, but it did happen about once or twice to me. So that can be a problem. Another thing I noticed is I have a Jelliskin on here.
I see that, yeah.
Yeah, so if we look at the close-up,
so
I have a
brown
Jelliskin.
frame, yeah.
And unfortunately, when I was putting this in here, it's such a tight squeeze that it peeled up on the edges, just on the bottom though. So it might ruin your Jelliskin if you want to use this case, but it's just going to happen on the top. It doesn't bother the bottom version of the Jelliskin. All in all, so my pros and cons, I'll give you those. The first thing that I like about this is it's nice and sturdy and smooth. It's got a really great keyboard. Whenever I was typing on this, it was nice and quiet. It's not really loud, and it's also very large. So all the keys on here, they aren't really, super tiny, and I like that they have this round corners to them. I think that's really nice and pretty. So it's a very decent keyboard. The cons, though, of course, it's way too thick. This thing doubles the size and the feel and the weight of your iPad. Doubles it, which is pretty big. I mean, it's basically giving you the same size as like a MacBook Air. It's even a little bit heavier. So that's kind of a big problem. It doesn't work well with the Jelliskin. Not a big con for most people, but it was for me, and it doesn't have that automatic off whenever you have the keyboard underneath it. So given all the problems with it, I give it a don't buy, just because, you know, it does have a lot of problems. And why would you want something that's so thick when you could just get the ultra thin keyboard as compared to this
Well, but you get more protection. I mean, they even say that this is the protection of a folio.
Yeah.
So if you want, you know, a bulletproof iPad, I think this looks like something a student might carry.
Yeah, maybe a student would like it.
Yeah.
But you got to keep in mind, it's still $100.
Right.
So it's quite an expense.
The ultra thin keyboard is about $80.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the Surface Pro keyboard is $130.
Yes.
So, you know, it's not completely out of the range.
Or that price.
A do not buy for the Logitech Keyboard Folio for the iPad from Shannon Morse. Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you.
We have a camera, and of course, if you're going to want a camera, you're going to have to review. You're going to have to get somebody who really knows photography. And while there are a few of us around here who consider themselves photo buffs, I think there's no one who owns more and more expensive cameras and who takes better pictures than our own Russell Tammany. He's our consulting engineer with Exponentia and does a great job for us keeping this whole enterprise wired. You also have a Canon 1D.
Yes, I have a 1DX.
A 5D.
5D.
A lot of expensive lenses. So,
you know, kind of a lot of both
and you're going to Iceland tomorrow.
I'm going to Iceland tomorrow.
What cameras are you bringing to Iceland?
I'm bringing the 1DX and sort of a big pile of lenses, and then I'm also bringing the NEX7.
Yeah, that's a good combination. That's the lightweight.
I'll be able to walk around with a 24mm Zeiss on the NEX7, right, and then still have like the 1DX with a zoom or something like that.
So a lot of pros that would be a perfect kit. I mean, the 1DX is the high-end Canon Pro camera.
I can get it wet. I can sort of get rough with it, and it's going to survive the travels.
So you probably laughed when we said, we'd like you to review this new point-and-shoot camera.
Yeah.
Do you even have a point-and-shoot?
I do have a point-and-shoot camera. I have a little Sony kind of ultra-slim camera, but basically I try to not use point-and-shoot cameras just because if I'm going through all of the trouble to go somewhere, to walk around and take pictures, I really want to have the quality there.
Right.
So
what's typical of a point-and-shoot is a very small sensor.
Right. So this is Fuji's FinePix HS50EXR. And so it's kind of in that class of super zoom point-and-shoot cameras.
Now the EXR is interesting. It gives you some additional features, software features.
Yeah, so it's sort of like their high-quality professional branding. And so this has a 16-megapixel 1/2-inch EXR backside illuminated CMOS.
Okay, that's a very small chip.
It's a very small sensor, but it's also using really kind of the state-of-the-art technology.
Right, right.
One of the things that you'll see in this sensor is that it's also got phase detect on the actual pixels.
What's that do?
What that does is that most point-and-shoots are going to use a contrast detect system where as they drive the lens, they look for contrast.
That's how they focus.
And that's how they focus. And so one of the complaints I've had about, say, my NEX7 is that the focusing is kind of slow and inaccurate, especially in low light.
Right.
So regular DSLRs have a phase sensor in the actual viewfinder. So that's why, as the mirror brings the light up through the lens and to your eyes, there's a phase sensor there, and that will detect, kind of corrections in lines and horizontal and vertical points to try to bring them to the sharpest point.
More accurate, but requires
so it's more
mirror,
accurate,
a big body.
Requires all this stuff that you don't have. So with this, and this is sort of becoming a new thing in mirrorless and in other point-and-shoot cameras, but it's got phase sensors on the actual camera sensor.
Interesting.
So you benefit from that now.
Now we should point out, despite its look, it looks like an SLR. In fact, it's as big as, it's as bulky as, but that is not an interchangeable lens. This is a point-and-shoot with a fixed lens you cannot replace.
So yeah, this is considerably larger, in my opinion, than my NEX7 with a lens.
Right, with interchangeable lenses.
It's not interchangeable, so you've got a manual zoom and a kind of an electronic manual focus. But the benefit to having this setup and actually having the small sensor is that by putting a lens this size on it, what you end up with is a 24mm to 1000mm equivalent lens.
Look how big this thing gets. It goes a long way. And you can see it's written 42x on the side.
So it's a 42x.
That is a huge amount of zoom.
So the difference is, you've got 24mm at the wide end, which is equivalent. So that's wide enough.
It's 24mm Equivalent. So
right.
it's a
so
that's a relatively wide
frame
angle.
camera and a 24
so it
millimeter
goes 24 to 1,000.
It goes 24 to 1,000, which is really insane.
That's crazy.
And, the issue is that it's f2.8 at 24, which is great, but all the way out at 1,000, it's actually f11.
F11. So
which
you'd
is
have to have
very dark
it's
and,
for
and
outside.
very slow.
It's
so
for
it's
bright
for outside.
Light. Yeah.
Now, one of the interesting things is that it also has.
It would shake like heck. You'd have to have a tripod at that.
You know, this is the thing that I was sort of impressed by, is that they've got some good technology in terms of digital stabilization as well as optical stabilization in this product, and it was not as crazy as I thought it would be. You know, you're sort of starting out zooming, and then all of a sudden,
handheld 1,000.
You can handheld 1,000. I would take some shots handheld 1,000, and you know, you would see that the ISO would be 400 even in the daytime.
Right.
But you'd get a pretty high shutter speed, and you'd still get the shot.
We have some pictures. In fact, Brian.
Yeah. So
while
we'll show some examples
while he's talking, we can show some of these images.
So I went out to this is around Spring Lake in Santa Rosa, and I took a walk around there. So
Color's good.
If we go back, let's go back to that previous picture there. This is the lake that I'm standing on. This is the dam I'm standing on.
Yeah.
And so this is a shot around 24 millimeters. And then if you switch to the next shot,
and this is
there's a boat out there somewhere.
All the way in.
So that's the other side. That's the other side of the lake, which is ridiculous. It's.
What was the clarity of the shots?
It's extremely far. So what I found.
Pretty good.
What I found is that at the wide end, you know, like maybe up to around 300 millimeter equivalent, 400 millimeter equivalent, it actually looks pretty good.
Yeah.
I was expecting a lot worse when I came back and looked at the one-to-one raw
This is kind of the mid-range.
photos.
This is about 300, you think?
So this is a mid-range. This is around 300 to 400. But when you get all the way to 1,000, you start to see some aberrations, and you start to see softness. And because it's an f11 lens at 1,000, your ISO has to be higher. You've got shake issues and things like that.
Grain issues.
But what I found is that it's one of the fastest focusing cameras I've used that isn't an actual DSLR or Pro DSLR.
Yeah, so that's a great shot. Is that a macro?
Yeah, this is in the kind of macro mode.
Yeah.
It's a little bit difficult to use to put it into macro because they want you to be able to have the subject very close. You've kind of got two options. You've got a macro option and a super macro.
That looks great.
Macro works well, but you have to be about 6 feet away, which then becomes sort of difficult to focus on small things. Super macro, you can only really be about an inch or two away, and now you're shading what you're trying to take a picture of with the lens and the lens hood.
I like the depth of field on this too. I'm surprised. Usually with a tiny sensor, you don't get a lot of depth of field.
Yeah, so one of the reasons you get a lot of depth of field is because of this 42x lens.
Right.
So when you're zoomed in at like 400 millimeters equivalent, even though it's only f5.6 or so and you've got a small sensor, just having that large focal length gives you that depth of field.
Are these retouched at all in Lightroom, or is this pretty much?
Yeah, this was all brought in Lightroom and RAW.
And what I did,
yeah, it shoots RAW, which is another really important thing you want to have in a
I think these are very nice
camera.
images, Russell.
So I brought them in RAW in Lightroom, and they basically don't need a lot of adjustment. Maybe a little bit of white balance here or there. I found it sort of overexposing by about 1/3 of a stop. But that's pretty typical. My 1DX actually does the same thing.
And there's enough information in there that you're
There's
not
a little bit
clipping.
of information in there. It's really not up to the level that you would get with a Micro Four Thirds or with an NEX or APS-C size sensor. But if you're the kind of person that wants one camera, you don't want to mess around with lenses, you want to be able to zoom in really far, you're not going to be able to buy a lens for a Micro Four Thirds that even goes out to 500 millimeters without it costing you a fortune.
How much is this camera?
So this camera is $549.95, which is their MSRP. I think that's a little too expensive for this type of camera because that basically gets you into the DSLR
you can get
category.
A T3i.
You can get a T3i, something like that. I did find it for around $430 online.
Well, that's not bad.
So
at that price, it's point and shoot.
At that price, it's kind of in the point and shoot. Yeah. And I have always told people that come to me and say, I'm into photography. I want to buy something. you know, if I tell them to buy a DSLR and they say they only have $500, you know, they're going to be disappointed or have to start spending more money.
Who is this for? This is for somebody who wants extreme zoom.
So this is for somebody that wants extreme zoom.
Yeah.
It has a lot of nice kind of manual controls.
Easy to use?
It's easy to use. It's fast.
Fast focus is great.
The focus is great. The menu systems are a little bit confusing and a little bit laggy.
But this might be good for a soccer mom or dad who wants to take pictures.
It's sort of intended for that. And, you know, if you do travel and you don't want to take what I'm taking, which is like a 42-pound think tank bag full of gear, you know, maybe you can get away with just taking a camera like this.
So pros and cons.
So pros and cons are that it's fast focusing, it's got good ergonomics, and it's got a great zoom range. The cons are really the image quality still. It's not up to the level of a Micro Four Thirds or a DSLR.
You wouldn't expect with the sensor that
You don't
small.
expect that, but I was pleasantly surprised except for the long zoom. And my issue is that because this is about the zoom, and you know, you may not be happy with the photos that are above 500 millimeters with it. And you know, that's sort of a con because that's what it's designed for. It's also got a small image buffer, and so even though you've got this fast focusing camera, and you've got this great zoom where you'd say, oh, let's take pictures of birds, let's take pictures of animals. It's 11 frames a second, but it will only hold about 6 photos.
Oh, that's frustrating.
And so, you know, you would really want to have a larger buffer. You can turn the image size down. You're only getting a half
second no matter what, right?
Yeah, you'll burn it up quick. And the last con is that it's expensive.
For what you get.
For what you get, I think it's expensive. But at the same time, if you look at what do you need to get a DSLR that has some sort of equivalent, you know, you're going to get an 18 to 55, you'll get maybe a 55 to 210 or 70 to 300 lens. You know, you're still talking 300 millimeters. And if you take a consumer 300 millimeter lens, zoom it all the way in, take a picture of something far away, and then blow it up 3 times digitally, you know, I think that this is still going to be better image quality.
A remarkable range, 24 millimeters to 1,000 effective. For around $430 if you shop around. And I do like that EXR sensor. I think that's as good as you can get for that size.
I'm happy with it up to about 800 ISO, which is good for a point and shoot. And you know, everything really works well on it.
Buy, try, don't buy it?
I'm going to still give it a try, and that's mainly because I still recommend most people look at a Micro Four Thirds or a DSLR type setup. If you know that you don't want that, I would say this is a buy, but there's a lot of kind of super zoom cameras out there on the market.
This is a very competitive segment.
This is very competitive. Everybody's got one. And you know, I think it's definitely worth evaluating.
The Fujifilm FinePix HS50 with the EXR sensor. Thank you, Russell Tammany of Exponentia. He's off tomorrow to Finland.
Iceland.
Iceland.
The other northern cold
The other
place.
Lind. How fun. How long are you going to be there?
I'm going to be there about 12 days.
You're going to, you know, you're not going to see the sunset ever.
You know, I may for about an hour or two.
It's great for a photographer though, because it's the magic hour for like 8 hours.
Yeah. So
beautiful.
I've got a Jeep Wrangler, and
you're gonna
I've
have a
got
blast.
all kinds of stuff to go camping. So.
Well, have a great time. When you'll be back? 2 weeks?
I will be back on the 7th.
Okay.
So.
We'll miss you.
I'll have email, satellite phone.
No, we don't.
We
won't call you. Don't call Russell. He's in.
Don't call me. Page me on my satellite phone.
Russell Tammany, thank you so much. He does a great job. If you're looking for a consulting engineer, managed services provider, Exponentia, X-P-O-N-E.
X-P-O-N-E-N-T-I-A.
I'll let him spell it, because it's strange.
Yeah.
You know, one of the problems with watching this show, you want new stuff all the time. You see stuff, you say, I got to get that. Oh, no, I'm going to get that. That's why Gazelle is such a good sponsor for Before You Buy. Gazelle is the easiest way to sell your used gadgets to make room for and pay for the new one. You're looking at the Samsung Galaxy S4, the HTC One, the iPhone 5, those new droids they just announced, maybe a Moto X in your future. Well, now would be the time to get a quote on your old phone. Gazelle will buy phones from a variety of manufacturers, including the Galaxy S3 or the Galaxy S2, and old Nokia, Blackberries even, and give you top dollar for it. Before you upgrade, make sure you sell your used phone or gadget to Gazelle. Get the cash to pay for the next device. And here's a little pro tip. You can get the Gazelle quote, and it's locked in for 30 days. So even if you don't know if you want to get the next big thing, Now's the time to get a quote on the next big thing, because I can promise you one thing, it's not getting more valuable. It won't be worth more tomorrow, the day after that. Gazelle's also buying back a larger selection of tablets now, including the iPad. You can also sell your Samsung, your Google Nexus. I hear there might be a new Nexus in your future. Kindle Fire, Microsoft Surface, Asus tablets. We got a Google announcement tomorrow at 9.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's going to be the Nexus 7. So, when would be a good time to get a quote, lock in a quote? Right now, before they make the announcement. You're not locked in, but you can lock in Gazelle. You don't have to be locked in. Gazelle.com, do it right now. Payment's fast within a few days of the item. They do pay the postage. In fact, they'll send you a box with a mailing label on it. Anything worth more than $1, they'll take care of that. Their data experts will check the quality of the device. Sometimes they even upgrade your offer if you said it was only good and they say, no, this is flawless. They'll give you more money. I've never heard of a company doing this in my life. I've heard of Gazelle doing it many, many times. They also wipe off your data so you don't have to worry about that. Gazelle has paid $100 million out to over 500,000 customers. Get your cash fast. Check PayPal, or another pro tip, get the Amazon gift card and they'll bump it up 5%. That's nice. Gazelle, Gazelle.com. Whenever possible, we like to give Liz Romero fun stuff to remove. Wait a minute, to review. Since we let Shannon review the Logitech keyboard case for the iPad, we thought we'd get Liz Romero to review Belkin's response. Let's take a look.
Hi everyone, I'm Liz from Twit, and I'm reviewing the Belkin Ultimate Keyboard Case for the iPad. So, unlike most people, I don't hold my iPad in this glory of it must be held separately. I actually just throw it into this black hole of a purse, because I just usually use my phone credit card case because I don't want to carry all this stuff. So normally my iPad lives in here. So as you see with my iPad, it's a little scratched up. The reason for this is I used to have the Logitech ultra thin case, and because it was thrown in here, it would scratch up against it since it wasn't actually connected only by magnet. This thing is actually connected. It's not going anywhere. Not to mention, it is actually protecting my iPad case. If I drop this because I'm a spaz, which I am, this is not going to die a terrible death like it would that's completely unconnected. A nice thing also about this is the keyboard. It's nice, it's quiet. Another big plus about this is the battery life. It has 1,400 hours of active battery life, 4,300 standby. That's amazing. I haven't even charged this thing since I got it. It's been 2 months. Another nice thing about this is it actually has multi-angles. Most keyboard cases, you just are stuck with this. Just the one type of angle, look at a certain glare, you can't see anything. Sucks for you. But this thing actually has multi-angles. That's nice. You have options. Options are good. But because you have options, it's not that stable. So you have to always remember that. If you're used to a keyboard that's stable, where you can just hold it, walk around with it, this thing, you're not gonna be able to do that. So don't really hold it as a book stand and have something else up against there, because you're gonna lose it like that. Since this is also attached to it and protective, another little thing I don't like is it's pretty clunky. You have this holding it. One of the things I love to do most on my iPad is, I don't know if you heard of a game, it's called Simpsons Tapped Out. I'm a little bit of an addict. So this kind of makes it odd sometimes to hold this big clunky thing when I'm trying to move Homer around and have him drink his stuffed beer. It's a little weird, but it does work. I'll take over protecting my iPad, not scratching it, over comfort. So for my overall pros and cons, big pro, this thing won't scratch my iPad. This has already been scratched and tormented enough. I don't need it to get messed up anymore. This thing has been great, no more scratches. Big pro for me. Also, it protects the keyboard. If this actually will fall down, the keyboard's not gonna die a terrible death because it's protected, and the iPad, all the corners are protected. I don't have to worry about breaking it. Another big pro is that it has the multi-angles. That's a huge plus when you have glares and you're on a desk and you're in a magical place where you don't know what line's gonna be, but you have to take notes for your boss. Another thing is the quiet and responsive keyboard. It's really good because most of the time when you actually need a keyboard is to take notes or do some type of spreadsheet, but you're with people, so you don't want to disrupt them. Well, you need to do what you need to do for your job. The cons, quick, it's big and clunky, not the most elegant for the iPad design, which you're really kind of trying to buy here. Also, it's $99. If you look at all the pricing on Amazon, this is really on the high range, but I do think you are getting what your money's worth is out of this. Also, the angles, because the magnet isn't too much, it's not the most stable, not the most lap-friendly, or if you're trying to move around from office to desk or something like that, it's a little worried. But overall, I am definitely giving the Belkin Ultimate Keyboard Case a buy. I'm Liz Romero with the Belkin Ultimate Keyboard, and back to you, Leo.
Thank you, Liz, our sales assistant. Now, I'm comparing the same price for the Belkin and the Logitech that you just reviewed, Shannon. Similar in a lot of ways, functionality almost identical. But you did not like the Logitech. Would you like the Belkin?
Yeah, I do like the Belkin.
You prefer the Belkin too?
Well, when
that's
you
two
put
buys
those in your hands, that one weighs less.
Yeah, it does weigh less.
It's skinnier.
Yeah.
And the keyboard's really nice.
And multiple angles is a good thing too.
Multi-angles, yeah.
Okay, well there you have it. Even Shannon, who didn't like the Logitech, likes
it's
the
pretty,
Belkin.
but
we got
it's
two buys.
Too big.
Yes, I think I like how pretty this is. Maybe I'm more aesthetic than you are.
Yeah.
I think how it looks is more important than how it works. All right, here you go. Take them both back.
Thank you.
Coming up, the single most expensive product we have ever reviewed. But first, Tom Merritt joins us to take a look at the Lenovo Thinkpad Helix, yet another Windows 8 tablet/laptop. Tom?
Hey there, I am Tom Merritt, and we're taking a look at the ThinkPad Helix. This is one of those removable tablet/laptops. It lists for about $1,700, but right now they're showing it on sale for $1,574 for the base model. It's still kind of pricey, but the deal is you press this button, oh my gosh, you have a tablet, right? This comes with it. You don't have to buy the keyboard separately, and it does this nifty trick. When you put the tablet back on, you have the option of putting it on backwards, and it still works. Why would you want to do that? Well, it's kind of a kiosk mode, a presentation mode. If you're wanting to show off a video to people, you might do it that way, and you can still control it. I don't know how many non-business applications it would have. I guess if you're showing video to your family. But as you can see, it is a little tricky to use. These flap here is apparently meant to help the cooling of it, but it's really weird when you do have it in reverse mode, and it kind of gets in the way when you're trying to dock this. These are a little hard to line up sometimes when you want to put it back, but honestly, you can't put it back wrong, so I think they did the right thing. So there we go. I actually really like this, though. I have to say, this was a really good laptop. Awesome ThinkPad keyboard, comes with NFC, a Wacom stylus with the little red dot on the end there. Not that I used it much, but nice to have and easily stowed right there in the tablet. It also has that rip and flip. That's what they call that, where you can turn the things around. Full package is a little heavy, though. 3.8 pounds here when you've got the keyboard involved, but that does extend the battery life. They say 6 hours for the tablet, 10 hours with the keyboard installed. I found it to be more like 5.8, but that's pretty normal for battery claims. It also isn't Haswell. It's an Ivy Bridge Core i5, but frankly, I didn't notice that. I didn't realize that until I looked up the specs. So it actually is pretty snappy, performs really well, plays video, has a beautiful display. It's a 1080p display. My only big negative about it is the clumsiness of that tablet relocking and the fact that it's kind of expensive at $1,500 even. It's still pretty pricey, but it's solid. It's got good ThinkPad build. I like the new trackpad. I know some old-time ThinkPad people don't like this new style trackpad, but I found it to be really easy to use. And the fact that the touchscreen is on while you're using it means that I can just kind of reach up and take that as another option if I want to do pointing or something like that while I'm using it. It's the ThinkPad Helix. I'm going to say, if you have the money, buy. But for most people, try. See if it's worth the money. I'm Tom Merritt. Back to you.
$1,574 as ours was configured, although you can get it for less, maybe not a lot less. Interesting. The ThinkPad Helix. Tom Merritt, host of TNT, Tech News Today. He's coming up tomorrow for our 22nd anniversary on the 24th of the Brick House, and we'll be interviewing me along with Sarah Lane for Triangulation. Sarah Lane and he will be interviewing me. Kind of a turnaround on Triangulation, so we'll look forward to seeing Tom in studio, back in studio once again. Coming up, as I said, the single most expensive object we have ever reviewed on Twit. We wouldn't let anybody touch this until we checked our insurance policy. That's how bad it was. And they all had to wear helmets. But we'll talk about that in a moment. But first, I just was so excited. This my new box came, my Bespoke Post. We've talked about Bespoke before. It's a product subscription club for men. Not that women. This one I think women would be interested in too. Every month, your box of awesome, see, even says, box of awesome, keeps you up on the latest in food, fashion, drink, and more. And we're going to get you 20% off your first box of awesome at bespokepost.com/twit. It's like, you know, it's a great gift because every month you get this new present in the mail or even a gift to yourself. These are all curated purchases. They all go together. Past boxes have included coffee kits, cocktail sets. I still have my shaving kit. I love that. Normally the cost $45 per box with free shipping, easy returns too. So you're never giving a gift somebody doesn't want. The retail value always more than the monthly subscription cost. And at the beginning of every month, they let you know what the limited edition selection is. Members can just opt out and not be charged if they don't want it. 1 month gift, $45. 3 month, $135. Half a year, $270. And as I said, you're going to get 20% off on your first month when you visit bespokepost.com/twitch. Shall we open the box?
Yes.
Are you excited?
Sorry. I love Bespoke Post. I got this for my fiance.
Did you get this for your fiance?
Yeah.
Oh,
he loves it. The barbecue set was amazing.
Yeah, it's just this great thing you get every month. So this is the barbecue kit, right?
Yes.
So they give you a card, Q. We got the Q in here. And they tell you, fire up the grill and pop an adult beverage. We brought together a collection of great brands to help start the season off right. I bet you're a griller too, Mr. Russell Tammany. You have a big green egg, do you? What do you have?
No, I used to, but now I just have a Weber.
You used to have a big green egg?
Yeah.
What
Why
happened?
would you ever get rid of that?
It fell off the truck?
Yeah.
You don't want those things, they'll shatter. I'm sure they're ceramic.
Yeah,
so
they're ceramic.
So tell me, what is this? Oh, it smells good. Is that for like putting fish on the grill?
Oh, cedar planks.
It's a cedar plank.
Yeah.
Golly, this is hickory. There's hickory, there's alder, there's cedar, and there is, this is the alder, okay.
Let's soak them in some water right now.
Isn't that cool? So what, you soak it in water, then you put the fish, or usually fish on here, and you grill it. Now, is this going to burn up?
No, if you
it's multi-use.
If you soak it, it shouldn't really burn. Yeah,
that's why you
soak
it.
Times.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're fine.
Oh, man, does that smell good. Okay, that's cool. That is awesome. We also have some rubs here. This is a whole spice rub from Napa Valley. Whole Spice's artisanal rubs and seasonings, from chipotle to a Moroccan rub. Add a kick. Oh, boy. Here's chipotle and honey. Here's Moroccan harissa seasoning. Ooh. Wow, this is a lot for one kit. This is the biggest one I've ever gotten.
Oh, yeah.
Here's a chimichurri dry seasoning. So I use rubs. I like rubs a lot on steaks, on chicken. This is just to get you in the mood. Just a little, some chips, okay? Well, what is this? There's one more thing in here. It's all carefully wrapped. Oh, no, there's two more. Oh, this is some ketchup. Oh, not just, this isn't Heinz.
Oh, that's fancy ketchup.
This is Sir Kensington Gourmet Scooping Ketchup.
Ooh.
Ooh, you want to try this?
Sure.
Why not?
You don't mind if I dip my finger in there?
Ooh. Wow. Here, take that. That smells good. I don't know what's in there. Doesn't that smell? Go ahead. No, don't dip your tongue in it. Use your sanitary finger. Here's some tin mustard. Try it. You like mustard?
I do.
I'm a mustard fan. That's a full grain mustard. That is fabulous.
Use my other finger.
Isn't that good?
Yeah, wow.
Doesn't this?
Oh, wow.
It's a lot like a homemade kind of ketchup.
And then here's some True Bee honey.
Does anybody have a barbecue set?
Now we need
barbecue.
Do you have the that's what you? This is not the barbecue.
Where's the sausages?
Yeah, really. I know. Okay. This is the caviar of mustard. You can eat it with a spoon. It's so good.
That's tasty.
Yeah, isn't that good? All right. Here's the Sir Kensington lid. You can take that to Iceland with you. Introduce them to the world of ketchup. You know, they don't have ketchup in Iceland.
You know, I think they have ketchup.
No, they don't have it.
I think they have some sort of apple.
Yeah, they have apples.
Thing like apple.
They have horses. They have codfish, but no ketchup. Sir Kensington's natural ketchup is an alternative to the processed goop you may be used to. And then True Bee honey, you eat this with some charcuterie. Ooh. I just want charcuterie. Or use it in your homemade bar. I know, this is awesome. So there you go. So this is the one of the current kits. They have several every month that you can choose from. 20% off your first box, bespokepost.com/twit. It smells really good in here now. It smells like we've been barbecuing. All right, I don't know whose idea this was. Whose idea was this, Shannon?
This was originally Tony's idea, and it took
Tony
me
said,
a couple months to
can
get
we
it.
get the Zero DS motorcycle? And you
I said,
are a
yes.
nice person. You got it for him.
Yep.
This is a $14,000 electric motorcycle. Can reach up to 126 miles on a single charge. The torque curve, as I know Russell and you know, the torque curve on an electric motor is flat. It's as much torque at 0 as it is at 126. Yeah. That means, well, let's just watch.
All right, so this is the 2013 Zero DS model. It's a fully electric bike.
DS stands for dual sport, so you can do some off-road riding with this bike.
So right off the bat, the big thing about this bike, in size and about the bike, is the battery. It's an 11.4 kilowatt battery that is the biggest that Zero offers, with an estimated range of 120 in the city and
76 on the freeway,
which Tony tested out himself.
More on that later.
We'll talk about that later. Okay. So when you first look at the Bramo, it definitely feels like a premium motorcycle. Nothing really looks cheap. You've got stainless steel braided brake lines, really nice rims, and it's a belt-driven single drive. And the fit and finish on everything is really nice. And that does come with a price tag of $15,999. So the battery is 11.4 kilowatts of power. You're paying about $1,000 for every kilowatt of a battery. So it's about $11,000 of battery attached to about $4,000, $5,000 bike.
The bike is made locally here in Santa Cruz, so that's pretty nice if you want to buy American.
So the battery from dead to full takes about 7.5 hours to charge. Its output is 56 horsepower and 68 foot-pounds of torque, so it definitely takes off pretty quick. Looking at the bike, you can tell there's something missing, right, Tony?
Yeah, so the bike is, I guess, one gear. There's no gear, so there's no clutch and there's no transmission, so it's like riding an automatic motorcycle.
Yeah, if it weren't for the $16,000 price tag, I would say this is a great beginner's bike because all you have to focus on is the brakes and gas. So I really liked the dash on this motorcycle. It's really clean, kind of tiny, but you can easily read it at a glance. Oh, and also where your gas tank would be is actually like a little lunchbox guy doodad. You can just pull them out, you got a little handle, and go have a picnic. So when riding the bike around, you have the option of either putting it in sport mode or eco mode. Now, sport mode is a set mode that allows you to have 100% power, top speed, and somewhere around 100% torque. But what you can also do is go into eco mode to either save power or connect to the bike with Bluetooth. You'd go to the App Store, iPhone or Android, download the Zero Motorcycles app, sync it to the bike, and then you can change the profile. And what I preferred to do, I would set the torque all to 100%, top speed, everything to the top, and then you can also set the engine braking so that the battery regenerates. And the feel to that while the bike was slowing down was probably more comparable to a typical motorcycle slowing down, and it felt like a motorcycle should. And if you turn that all the way down, it just coasts, which is kind of weird for me, slowing down.
Yeah. So Brian, how was your few days with this bike? I know you rode it everywhere you went. You did the in and out test.
I did the in and out test. I was able to get to in and out and back without, losing battery. But just the whole riding experience, I really enjoyed. The weirdest thing for me was coming up to an intersection and completely silent.
Yeah. I mean, I was at the light with a guy next to me in a car, and he was like, "What are you riding?" And I was like,
and you can hear him perfectly.
Yeah,
there's no
I can hear him perfectly.
Yeah.
And so I told him it's an electric bike, and he's like, "Oh, so it's like a Prius for motorcycle." I was like,
kinda.
Basically.
And it's not that it's completely silent, because when you're moving, it sounds pretty cool.
So you took it off-road. It's a dual sport.
So, yeah, one of the added benefits of having a dual sport is it's not, the sportiest bike on the road, and it's not like the greatest dirt bike either, but you can do both. And it was fun. It was fun to take it off-road. The nice thing about not having a clutch when you're riding in dirt is you don't have to worry about stalling the bike. So two things. Leaving an intersection, you just twist the throttle and you take off, and it goes quick. Like, I would say up to like 50 miles per hour, 0 to 50 is faster than my street bike that I have, my 600cc.
It's faster than mine as well.
But on the dirt, what that translates into is you don't get stuck when you hit sand, which happened to me, and you know, you can just really be easy on the throttle and just kind of dial it in so you feel the back end spinning. There's no engine noise to kind of distract you or anything. You're one with the bike when you're out there on the dirt and stuff. Damn. Also, there's single rotor front and rear brakes with steel brake lines, and they worked really good. Like, stopping this motorcycle was not a problem. It's got fully adjustable suspension too, so it did a really great job. I wouldn't use it for jumping, but it handled, you know, a few bumps and stuff, no problem.
Wait, how much does the bike weigh?
So that's another cool thing. The bike only weighs 400 pounds, and it feels, I mean, when I was riding, it felt really light. Like, all the weight is in the bottom of the bike, and the high bars and the seating position made this super easy to ride around, and it was nice being able to hop the curb at the Twit studio, go up the curb, and then go into the studio and just plug in. So for the few days that I was able to ride this bike, my commute is about 20 miles from my house to Twit, and then I would plug in the bike, and then I would also do some back road riding and go home, which was about another 60 miles, and that was perfect for my commute. I never had any battery anxiety.
I also tried commuting with this bike, and with my current commute, about 45 miles, no problem whatsoever. It's all freeway. It's all uphill, downhill, high wind, over a bridge. Everything's fine, except when I pushed the bike a little bit further, I reached about 55 miles before the reserve charge came on, and it was warning me, so that's when I got off the freeway.
Right.
So it does do their estimated 76 miles if you run the battery drain. Yeah, and battery drain, I think mostly was happening at higher speed. So when I dial things down to 55, everything was fine, yeah.
So what would you say were your pros for the bike?
I love the pickup. You know, the motor is obviously very efficient and a lot of torque. Torque is so important when you're riding.
One of my pros would be maintenance. So the initial cost of this bike is pretty steep, but the battery is said to last 300,000 miles of charging, and the only things you really will ever have to change is brake fluid, tires, maybe adjust the belt occasionally. Other than the initial cost, maintenance is pretty low for a motorcycle. And another pro for me would be, it's a cool looking motorcycle. Like, I definitely got a lot of compliments riding it around, and people kind of want to know why this bike doesn't make any noise as you're going by.
So what were the things that you didn't really like about the bike?
The bike itself, pretty much nothing. This is a super fun bike to ride, but the two biggest cons are pretty obvious, and that would be price at $15,999 is pretty steep. But I think where this would fit in is it's a good second or third bike. And then the second con, which would probably fit for you more, was range.
The range, yeah. I mean, it's because there's no transmission, you're sort of stuck with that one gear. And so the faster you go, the less efficient the motor is. So it's not the greatest bike for all highway commute like I do. Right. But for what you do, where it's sort of mixed.
It's kind of 50-50 for me. So buy, try, or don't buy for the Zero DS. I'm definite buy. It's the most fun I've had riding a motorcycle in a long time with no clutch. Just turn the throttle and go. So buy. You, Tony?
Well, for me, it's pretty obvious that I do need more range in my commute. So for me, it's going to be a try. Definitely plan out your route going to work. If this works for your route, it's definitely a buy.
So that's been our review of the all-electric motorcycle. Back to the studio.
Point out a couple of things. First of all, Brian and Tony are experienced riders. This is not for your first, learning how to ride a motorcycle bike. It's your second or third bike, they said, in their dreams. It's very, at $15,000 as equipped, that's with the extra battery, that's a lot. Hey, a special thanks to Anthony Nielsen, who did some of the shooting and did all the editing on that and really made that a lot of fun. I felt like I was watching Battlestar Galactica there, Anthony. And of course to Tony and Brian, who did the riding. Brian did a lot of the shooting as well. Wow. I'm glad I saw that footage after they were doing that, because we had to pay for insurance for that. And there it is. And you're not going to ride it anymore, are you guys? It's going straight back to zero.
Return it.
Straight back to zero. One more day?
It was really fun.
Don't wipe out after the last day, would you, to me?
It's a good bike for women, too.
Did you ride it?
I didn't get to ride it because I'm not a motorcycle. I don't have a motorcycle license.
You have to have a special
But I was
license,
able
obviously.
to get on it as a second passenger, and it's very easy to lift up by myself just because it's so lightweight. It's a good bike.
It's pretty neat stuff. The Zero DS motorcycle. I love the sound. It sounded like the episode 1 of Star Wars. What was that? The chariot races. Really cool. Hey, I hope you enjoyed the show. By the way, a longer review of that Zero is on our website. I'm sorry, no, it's on YouTube. YouTube.com/beforeyoubuy. In fact, for all of the products, we put individual reviews up. So if you want to tell a friend, hey, there's this electric motorcycle you might want to get me for Father's Day or something like that. Zero DS, a motorcycle review, and all our reviews at youtube.com/beforeyoubuy. You can email Shannon with your tips, suggestions, things you'd like to see reviewed at byb@twit.tv. We'd love to hear from you. And of course, we do the show every Tuesday afternoon about 4 p.m. Say between 3 and 4 p.m. Pacific, 6 and 7 p.m. Eastern time on twit.tv. We'd love it if you watch live. If you can't, on-demand versions of the entire show also available at our website, twit.tv/BYB. That's it for Before You Buy for this week. Thanks to all our reviewers. Have a great trip to Iceland. Russell Tammany. Thank you, Shannon Morse. We'll see you on Threat Wire. Brian and Tony, we'll see you in the hospital. And we'll see you back here next week. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you got to watch before you buy.